Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kitchen, a new podcast by the Solana name service. We've chosen this name because while we might not all be chefs, there's always something cooking on Solana. I am Akash, your co host, and I'm joined by.
Celine, hello everyone. And today in the kitchen, we have none other than Dr. Chris Osborn. Many of you might know him as the mastermind behind Dialect. So let's welcome Chris. Thank you for joining us. I guess I'll just jump straight into this because as we did some preparation for this podcast, it's really difficult to miss the accolade of experiences you've accumulated from a PhD in physics to being a CEO and founder of one company to a co-founder of another, and then to ending up as the founder of Dialect. I guess just the first question is, when do you sleep?
I sleep very well every night, and I like fall in. So one, first off, appreciate it. It's very flattering. But on the sleep side, I think one of my true superpowers is that I actually, no matter how stressful or crazy things get, I can sleep through it. Like I never lose sleep from anything. Maybe the thing I shouldn't be saying is I do actually get like 7-ish plus hours of sleep every night.
How dare
Um,
you? Founders can't sleep.
I know, right? But like, there's like two camps out there. There's the people who are like, oh, if you sleep, are you really like, should devs be allowed to sleep? But there's the other half. It's like, actually, like, it's a marathon, not a sprint. And the like, you got to make up for the time somewhere. So the reality is I just like don't do anything else. I like,
It's really funny that you mentioned that because Akash and I were just talking as well. We're definitely two people that love our 8 hours, but don't tell our boss. But on a serious note, I think we were discussing prior that it takes a very driven individual to be a part of this startup economy. And we're really curious to learn about your journey going from basically a physicist to a prolific startup founder and then ending up at Dialect or being the founder of Dialect. Can you just like kind of take us through that, how it started and why you're here now?
yeah, and I appreciate the use of the word prolific here. Like, I'll take the compliment. The reality is, I've never seen like a day of product market fit in my life. So, like, I'll tell you about
That
it once
happens.
we figure that out. But I mean that in a really deep way. Like I don't know that I would work really well at a big established company.
Mm,
To me, the journey, like, sorry, try whatever like inspirational thing, but the journey is the destination. Like, um, I discovered physics very late. I did not come from an academic family. I never took calculus in high school. Like, I was a very middle of the road student, just not inspired really by any of that. And then in late high school, one of my oldest friends, actually coincidentally also the friend who first told me about Bitcoin and crypto, he gave me a book that inspired me. And I was like, wait a second, maybe I want to study physics. And I like hurled myself into it. And I spent multiple years in undergrad just catching up, like just all my peers were people they'd known since they were really young. Maybe they came from really technical families, or like had parents who worked in science and engineering, and it was just like a grind to catch up. And so I was like, already, all right, things suck all the time there. And then go to grad school, and like quite literally, like a PhD is a journey in like just grueling persistence, because your experiments, you're truly trying to produce results that have never existed before. So like there's
yeah.
not a lab on the planet that has anything like product market fit, and that's by construction, like, because academia is not about products, it's about research. So that was just a grind. Nothing worked all the time. I also just don't think I'm a great physicist, but I think I learned in that process that I love to create stuff and I like
Yeah.
to express myself through my work. And so they always say work on something you love and you never work a day in your life. I do feel like I work most days, but I do love it. And and then after that, it was a few years in quantum computing, which was like getting to do a little more of the like less research, more technology.
Mhm.
But that field is just deep, 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 like hard tech. I think it's going to be harder to make the first real valuable quantum computer than it is to get to Mars. I was very fortunate to work at one of the best companies in the world, Rigetti Computing, some of the smartest people I've ever met. But again, it was just like fighting, like, it's not like I do users want my products. It's like, will nature allow me to perform this computation with this new kind of hardware?
Mhm.
It's just truly like butting up against some of the hardest stuff possible. So I like to say that all of that was like a training in grit. And I know grit has become somewhat of a popular word to use, but I don't think it's overused. I think it's like one of the best
Mhm.
words to describe what's needed for us in this world. And I would say not just founders, but anyone working at a startup. pre-product market fit. And then I would even say like crypto in many ways is pre-product market fit, at least on the things I want to see crypto do for the internet. So we're kind of all in this together, and I would throw it back at both of you. Like we're kind of all learning how to invent an industry, work on what we care about, and like there's no one telling us it's what we should be doing because most
Yeah.
people are just like, why are you working in crypto? So yeah, I don't know. It's just fun. It's the journey. It's just great, and part of that's the people. And we've known you all for a long time, and so really happy to be here. And it's great to be working in the industry together.
I love what you said there. Sorry, Akash, not to interrupt you or anything, but um, the statement that we're in crypto and we're all pre-product market fit just simply by being in crypto. That's a really good way to to state it, and it's an ongoing challenge. And I think at least from your previous experiences, like you said, the grit helps, and
Yes.
it's a marathon and a sprint.
Yeah, totally. I also resonate with kind of finding an interest kind of later in life because I am a dev now, but I did not know that's what I wanted to do. Previous to this, I was working in marketing, and so I kind of came into development
Oh, cool.
and yeah, did a little deep dive, and now now it's what I do as a career. So it's an amazing thing, and shout outs to SNS for allowing me to grow with them. But yeah, that's definitely I think a grind, and it has been a lesson in grit, and I'm kind of like living through that experience. So yeah, definitely resonate with that.
Like I grew up in a part of the world where most people go into like, and nothing wrong with it, but like finance and banking, and it was like a suburb of New York City. I actually now live in New York City, but it was a lot of sort of like just residential suburb of like Wall Street, and the extent of science in my education was kind of like, and again, not denigrate, but like Bill Nye was like how science was taught. I was like, oh, science is like a thing kids do.
Yeah,
And like then you grow up and become a business person. And the reality is, it's like no science like put us on the moon. It like powers modern healthcare. Like it just makes, and it's just kind of crazy that I like had to figure that out as like a late high school
Yeah,
student because like science is just it's a scholastic thing, and it was really realizing there's this like intellectual heritage. So it's not just technology, but it's also the pursuit of knowledge and discovery. And like to me, blockchain is kind of that. Maybe
yeah.
people are laughing when I say that, but like truly top five most impactful things I've ever learned in my life. And I love to use this phrase nerd snipe of like, just you learn something that just like snipes into your brain and you'll never be able to unlearn it. And proof of work and
Yeah,
Bitcoin, and then proof of history with Solana just as much. But like, I'll never be able to like think about the internet the same way ever again.
I love that. And like the one thing about crypto is you never fail to sometimes feel unknowledgeable in the sense that it's such a steep,
Yes,
consistent learning curve. And I don't think your brain has the capacity to consume everything. And like we niche
it's impossible.
in in the real world in becoming a PhD in physics and writing a dissertation about something very specific, and then coming to the Solana ecosystem, for example, we all have our tiny silos of expertise as well because we just can't do it all. And I think that's why
Yeah.
we're a great community because we have to lean on each other to kind of pull this off at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I'm like squarely in the left curve of like I still not couldn't tell you how Solana works. Like I get I get it at a high level, but like the kind of stuff, for example, that the Jito team knows, the people built like at Anza building the client, all that. Like I've not gone that deep yet, so there's
Yeah.
still it's just an infinite rabbit hole, and it's just it's so cool.
Mhm.
It's endlessly entertaining.
yeah, totally. I have to agree with that as well. Like I was like trained with like mostly like a front end development mindset, so I've been getting into Solana development and really trying to understand how Solana works. And sometimes I'll look at something and I'm like, I don't get this yet. I'll come back to it. But like there's always
Yeah,
going to be like, okay, I got to look this up again eventually. Like
it's boxing of unknowns,
yeah,
and if you can sort of understand the interface of a thing and you still don't like, so I would say I have like pretty decent outer knowledge of Solana, but like the
Mhm.
actual like deep like how the thing works, yeah, 100% I agree with that.
So I appreciate the background, appreciate the understanding of kind of who you are. But I think we can kind of now jump into dialect and product. And this is the kitchen. We got to talk about what's cooking. So for the few who are unfamiliar with dialect, so can you tell us about what you guys do and who you guys are?
Yeah, so dialect, we've had a little bit of a journey. We've been around for 2.5 years, actually approaching 3. I can't keep track of time. We've had one mission this whole time, but we've experimented in a few different ways. So I think I want to work from that mission. And that mission is something that about in late June, so about 6 weeks ago, we like to say startups are a series of shots on goal, like to use the
Yeah.
sports metaphor. And we took a shot on this same goal, this mission of ours that went extremely well. And that's what we call actions and blinks. And we have a number of other, thank you, Celine. Yeah, we have a number of other technologies that have been built. We're developer tools and we power experiences for projects to reach their end users. I'll explain what that is in a moment. We have a number of other tools that we've launched over the last 2.5 years or so that are like in service to this. And I'll talk about those in a little bit. And I know that we've collaborated with you all on a number of these over time. But actions and blinks are basically a way to make your experience, like let's say you're a DApp developer, protocol developer, to make your experience shareable everywhere. And that's a little bit of a strange statement because it's like, well, I can already share things because like I'll just grab a URL from my website. Let's say I made like a DApp and it's at a website, and I'll just grab a URL and share it. And like, what does sharing on the internet look like today? It looks like you share a link, let's say, and let's say you drop it in a chat app, you tweet it on Twitter. It unfurls into what we call a link preview. And a link preview is, like, to me, truly one of the most important innovations in the shareability of the internet in the last 30 years. I mean, it's about 15 years old, I think. It's part of this thing called the Open Graph that Facebook released, but it like gives you a nice image, title, description.
Mm-hmm.
The links allow you to embed actions directly in the shareable link. So Blink is like a crypto native link preview that has these crypto superpowers. So I know you all shipped a really exciting Blink like just a few days after our launch, I think right in early July. But what the way that blinks work, and I'll explain a little bit of like the how, but the what is share a link, for example, to an SNS, like snsdid, which is your site, and you can tweet that out. And on Twitter today, it will unfurl with an image, title, description, and then some actions you can actually take. And actually, I'd love to have you both share a little bit about what you built there, and then we can get a little more into like what this technology is.
Yeah, we have registrations and subdomain registrations, and we've actually partnered with a project recently that allows you to share domain name listings as well. And
Cool.
there's so many, the options are endless, but yeah, like you said, it really enhances that user experience, and especially when you delve into something like the browsing experience of a user, because that's where a lot of people spend their time. And basically, what these blinks or the SNS blinks allow is for you to either obtain a domain name via registration or buy it from someone directly on Twitter, and that really enhances this, or it doesn't deprecate the browsing experience. And that's what I always tell people when they visit certain dapps as well. I don't want to click somewhere and then go to another site to have to come back here again. No, I want to stay where I'm at. And it makes complete sense, but it's so beautiful for the project as well, or for team members, because we get this exposure directly on a really popular platform. Um, we still get domain names registered at the end of the day. And if not, people at least just see it. So brilliant.
That's right, and it's really there's a lot of things you said there, Celine, that I would like, that I just get me very excited to share more about, like the why behind this technology. But just to reemphasize that, so like you can share a link to an sns.id, like your site, and folks can register both domains and subdomains directly from the tweet, right? Like that's just, it's incredibly cool. And it's really just like, it's this next generation of link previews. Like I said this like 15 years ago, Facebook started to pioneer the like, how do we make these things not just random strings of letters, and make them more understandable? And it's like, why did we stop there? And like, I'll keep this brief, but really just genuinely believe like the crypto and the cryptographic key pair, what we call the wallet, is this incredible innovation. This is the other like proof of work, was that incredible nerd snipe for me. What got me to like where I was like, I want to build in crypto, because I was following. I heard about proof of work back in like 2013. Saw the launch of Solana in 2021. I mean, it was like a year after it launched. I chose to start building in crypto because I saw a smart contract, and I saw that every time you invoke any function ever, there's a proof of who's invoking it, and that just blew my mind. And it was like now the internet, like, or just the universe and math is the user table. So like, sorry, none of this is going to make any sense. I apologize, but like, the links are made possible. Like, why didn't link previews evolve in this way on the regular internet? Is because the way we sign in to products on the web to internet and the way we authenticate who we are, this like signing with Google, turns out you're signing in a siloed way where you can only do things and prove who you are within each site individually. But the wallet and the cryptographic key pair is basically this universal user table, universal sign-in where you're signed into everything all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's a wallet that you used on SNS and it's what you've got installed in your browser, when you see a tweet where you can do something from you all at SNS, you can just take the action right from Twitter. And then like, so one, it's like, it's flattening this fundamental thing about the internet. So like just aside from crypto, of like the whole internet as a business and an economy is all about calls to action and the actions.
Yeah.
And they're always different places. It's like email, Twitter, Instagram, all these places. And then the action is the site that's advertising.
Mm-hmm.
Like the economic engine of the internet is platforms where you advertise, where you have calls to action, and then the sites where you take the action. And Blinks just flatten it into one surface. And it is a uniquely, because of the wallet, the cryptographic key pair, it's like a unique capability. But the one last thing I wanted to share, Celine, is your point about like, I don't want to leave Twitter because I want to just be able to do things there. I don't want to have to go to a second site. I actually think it depends on the context. And there are so many actions that a business would like you to take that don't really justify going to the site. And so the friction of having to go to the site, you lose a user. Someone doesn't take that action on the call to action. But the other nice thing about it is I think it will actually ultimately drive net long-term retention and engagement of users in your products, because if you can capture someone at the top of funnel when you don't even have them as a customer, you don't have them as a user, they're not bought into what you're doing, if you can actually share an experience with them and have them do something on that social platform, they might be convinced and activated as a user, and now they do want to spend time on your product. So like you all have functionality on sns.id that like is not in your Blinks. Blinks are really meant to be these satellite sort of top of funnel or light retention and engagement tools to keep people in the loop long term. And so I do think they actually help bring you to these sites. So they are a great sort of like way that you engage with users remotely to ultimately bring them to your platform and keep them as long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And Blinks has been the talk of the town. So seriously, a huge congratulations on that. And I know our team internally was really excited by that. And I think you guys made a compilation of Blinks that have been uh, produced lately or developed, and just going through it and seeing the endless possibilities there are, different options to create these. It's incredible and it's inspiring. And I think this leads well to my next question. And it's really interesting to me is when you develop something like Blinks, or going back from, I mean, you guys have had multiple hits, even with the stickers before. And do you go when you ideate something like this? Do you go once it's conceptualized, this is going to be a fucking hit, or what does that ideation look like? And when it's conceptualized, uh, are you like, this is going to be a winner for the ecosystem?
It's a great question. I think the short answer is like most ideas don't work, and they don't work for a confluence of factors. They're either just a bad idea, like they're just not good. And I'll admit I've had terrible ideas where I'm like, this is going to be incredible, like this is going to be amazing, and they're just stupid, and they probably never end up even seeing the light of day. Like you need to just sleep on it. But then there's also just confounding factors of timing, execution, all this. I mentioned before, this was just our latest shot on goal on an idea we've been working on for a couple of years. And you brought up one previous example of this. We had a messaging app where there were NFT chat stickers. But the cool thing, the real thing, like everyone became obsessed with the chat stickers, but the really cool thing was this thing called the smart message. And
Yeah.
this was truly like the previous iteration of Blinks and Actions. It was, you could share a link inside of our messaging app. This was in 2023, so the previous year. And that link could be things like, hey, I saw you have this chat sticker. I'd like to buy it from you for 0.01 Sol, which was a lot less back then than it is now.
Mhm.
and people could barter and accept offers, and it was all powered by a protocol, and it was powered by our friends at Tensor. So it was like true like example of composability, and that was very successful. Like especially like during the bear market, like these were really like very few users in the Solana ecosystem at the time. But I guess my point is like we've been taking multiple shots on this one. Some of them have worked. We also released a Telegram bot earlier this year that was like a very innovative new take on what Telegram bots could be like, and it was a total flop, like total flop. Like nobody used it.
Mm.
I'll be the first to explain why that was. Like I think it's incredible learning and insight. I think with actions and blinks, we knew this one was going to be bigger, but we had no idea how big it was going to be. Like it really vastly exceeded our expectations. Just to give a quick concrete example of that, like we were racing toward the launch. We launched together with Solana Foundation. John Wong, who leads engineering at Solana Foundation, was like my counterpart. It was like really me and John brought this thing to market. And you should definitely talk to John. Like all of this never would have happened without him.
Yeah.
The story behind this technology in the background context has roots and origins at Solana just as much as Dialect with things like Solana Pay and whatnot. So anyway, small detour. But we really, for launch, we were aiming for one wallet would power this experience. I know we haven't gotten into even how these work, but like one wallet would power the experience. And we were thinking like 5 to 10 launch partners, which we know a bunch of teams in the ecosystem. So that was not super hard to pull off that. We got very fortunate. We had close to 10 teams. We had both Backpack and Phantom show up, which we were just like delighted to have two of the best wallets. And then it launched, and our goal was like, okay, like 5 to 10 actions and blinks, like for launch, and then by breakpoint, let's have 100. And we had 100 within the first week. It was insanity. And so it really took off. Everyone's really excited about it. So it's been really amazing. Like I know it's a slightly longer answer to your question, but like I didn't expect it to go this well. Even outside of crypto, outside of Solana and outside of crypto, people have been asking about this technology. It's been really exciting. All of that is to say though that like in classic startup journey, if you are among the luckiest, you will have a great launch. So you've got like, sorry, I'm trying to get my hands on the screen here. You've got like the initial launch, and you got this great activation, and then like Paul Graham, the YC founder, just has this thing that I love. Is like you have this great activation, but like especially if it goes better than you expected, even if it goes well, engagement drops. And like it's because you just don't know what people are going to use this thing for. Like whatever ideas you have no idea what people are actually going to do with it. And so the goal is to actually now work through this trough here. He calls it the trough of sorrow. I'll admit I'm having a great time, but like where you're working with a smaller user base, a bunch of people try it, a bunch of people are like, I sort of get it, it's cool, but there's not a lot you can do here. But then you've got that foundation of people you're working with to then find, I'm gonna like scoop the screen, but then find true product market fit, take off. And we're very much like actually still very high on this curve, and it's been amazing to see. But I think the technology still has a really long way to go.
Yeah. Interesting the way you put it, because it's good to be realistic like that, because a launch can go so well, but it's how do we maintain this and keep this exciting and on people's radar, so like you said, we reach that curve again instead of kind of going down. And that's a cycle so familiar to us, at least Akash and I as well. And it's especially when you work with something like domain names as well, it's a consistent challenge of, it makes sense for us because we obviously work on this day in and day out. But how do we make sense? How do we make it make sense for a user on a day-to-day basis and continue keeping this exciting and continue pushing this narrative? So I really resonate deeply with that one. And as you talk about, oh, sorry, you wanted to say something?
I was just going to say part of it's also just acknowledging that is the natural cycle. Like if you don't have this sort of the excitement wears off and you kind of get into this more practical phase, then you're like Facebook or something where it was just truly like hockey stick to like the outer solar system, which most of us don't go through that. So just knowing that is the journey is all like maybe coming back to this question of like, how do you continue to do these kinds of things in these hard industries and hard startups, is just being aware that that's actually like, that's market. Like that's an expected outcome. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and besides Blinks, I mean, you guys have developed something fabulous recently with notifications, and Akash was actually the one that worked on implementing the UI there, and he had a fabulous experience. But I guess I'll just kind of trot into my next question then, where it's like, obviously you kind of build for B2B, but it's really about enhancing blockchain consumer experience, right? And one thing when you talk about consumer experience on the blockchain that gets thrown around quite frivolously is this term of mass adoption, right? People love saying that. And obviously this is something that we all want to achieve at the end of the day, but it's like not everyone can say it all the time. But so I want to flip it around for you, and ask you this instead. What do you think we can do better that we are currently doing in the ecosystem today to potentially achieve this? Like, what are we doing that we should do better?
Have we entered the hot takes section? I have a hot
No,
take.
not
Like
even.
No,
have
I
it, and it's not that hot a take. It's just like mass adoption is actually like a word I actively try to avoid
Yeah.
because I think it's getting at the wrong essence of this. And I kind of sense that in your question too, that you feel similarly. The like really, I finally found out why I don't like the phrase, and because it's sort of like it feels like mass adoption is this like very heavy word. It feels like we're measuring product market fit in like pounds of body weight. Like you have this like, pile of humans. Like anyway, sorry, it's just like it's a grotesque image, but that's like a sign of why I don't like it. But the real like articulate thing here is again on this startup journey, um, two things. One, like your users are real people, like real humans, and ultimately you will only find product market fit if you find some way to, I know the classic thing is like save them time or money, but like to me it's like delight them, make them happy, make them love what you've built, and or just save them time and money, like solve a problem in their lives. And it took me years to develop this skill, but at Dialect, we really talk to our users. We really, really, really try to just meet and talk with them every day. And that's our customers, such as you folks. And I hope that when I say this, you actually agree and be like, yeah, the Dialect team listens. Um,
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, you guys have been so responsive. I had trouble with it, and you hopped on a call pretty
I'm glad to
instant.
hear that.
Amazing. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're deeply oversubscribed right now. There's so many things I want to do for our notifications offering. Celine, you mentioned we have this other product offering. So we actually use the alliterative alerts and actions. They go really well together, and I just like can't wait to do that. But it's just been such a fire hose for the last
Mhm.
6 weeks. But yeah, it's like talk to your customers. In our case, that would be you all, but also understand. Try to get through to what you know about your user, because yes, you hit the nail on the head. We are B2B2C in that our tools touch the end users. And on this like question of how do we reach a more mainstream audience, like timely alerts, engagement, retention, like notifications are the tool for reaching people in remote environments. Like yes, when like an influencer tweets, it's a kind of notification, but also just receiving an email or a text,
Mhm.
Telegram message. Like those are the things we power with alerts. But then being able to take action directly from that thing is where you go above it. And we've been saying this since early 2022 when we launched alerts. This is like our older product offering. It wasn't enough to say, let's turn on alerts and notifications for crypto. Let's make crypto native. Let's also go above and beyond what's possible in Web 2. And back then we launched our alert stack with a pre-announcement about the smart message, which was imagine you could actually just take the action from the alert without having to follow a link to another site. That was the inception of actions. It turns out what people really like is to just like shit post them on Twitter. So there's just two different versions of the same thing, like topping up collateral or accepting an offer on a .sol domain that someone has made, or any other kinds of things you might want to do, like just doing them directly from an alert. That was getting a little bit into our product offering. To answer your real question, is like to me, like classic startup journey is make a small number of people insanely happy. Like that's and then work outward. And this is like classic Y Combinator, like Paul Graham advice. It's also just I think really like good wisdom. And in crypto, I really do think the challenge that we all face is we really need to build for our current user base, like meet people where they are, talk to your users, meet the crypto community. But one of the gripes, and so like to turn it around and say like it's not totally like every team's fault if they're just all they talk about is mass adoption, but like um, the challenge truly is okay, we've got these crypto natives. They might be very different in terms of their preferences and interests than someone who's a little more mainstream. And it's really about bridging that gap.
Yeah.
And every great startup that's done incredible things has found a way to bridge that gap. And I think we as an industry need to bridge that
I
gap.
think And I agree with you. I think if teams continue to focus on their users and solve problems for them and then continue to scale, I think that's where, mass adoption or whatever will eventually come, or at least, some version of it. And, that makes me kind of think about the future, right? So on that note, do you have a sort of a 5-year vision for Dialect in your team?
Yeah, there's a few different ways to look at this. I'm gonna try to give the really like just I get really try to keep this simple because I get
It's a,
really
it's
excited.
a, I had I know it's a daunting question, but like, at SNS, I think like if I can give you guys some background for what we think, like
Yeah, please.
the new internet per se, we'd love to be a force of an identity layer, right? So that's kind of our big and maybe lofty goal, but curious to see if you have something like that as well.
No, I love that. The phrase I like to use, like a little bit of poet's license here, is we want to unfurl the internet. Like people say, okay, you take a link, you turn it into a link preview. That's an unfurl. To me, there's another way to think about unfurling conceptually, which is this idea that like you have a product, it's a website, you go to a URL, you engage. Um, Today, you can share links to pages of your website. Modern development frameworks allow you to click around, and as you go to different pages, maybe not every page should be shared, but every page could be shared because the URL is changing. And we want to URLify and like unfurl the ability to share experiences and actions across the internet. So what if building with Dialect's development stack, you actually just wire every experience in your site as you're building your site is consuming these kinds of technologies like actions, individual buttons, and then at any time, if you want to, you can wire that, you can like expose that it's shareable. A user clicks it and they can go share an action. And that to me is like, think of like pages are the nouns of the internet, actions are the verbs. And like right now today, when you try to share an experience with someone, you're like, oh, here's a page, and like scroll halfway down and like go look for this thing and click that and this and whatever. That's just one example of like why you'd want to share an action versus a page. But I just think we unlock a tremendous number of experiences with this. And like the nouns versus verbs metaphor, especially with a company name like Dialect, is a big part of that. But what we want to do is like unfurl the internet and break the tyranny of like you got to go to these websites, you got to go to these other places to do things,
Yeah.
and really just make actions like this one seamless surface across the whole internet. That's the vision.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
By the way, the .sol domains, you were probably the first protocol I truly engaged and interacted with back in summer of 2021.
Cool.
And I own a bunch of .sol domains. And like that to me was a big unlock in thinking about all this, is like you've got this one ID that you can carry with you everywhere. And I got like massively outbid on Chris.sol, which I was really bummed about. But I'm like, I know the guy now, and I'm like, someday I'm going to get it from him. But I didn't know him at the time. I met him like a year and a half later. I just remember being like, oh man, he's outbidding me. So like truly one of my first experiences was with you all. And so I'm a big fan. Yeah, I love the identity layer. So much about action is about identity as well. So I think there's actually some cool stuff we can collaborate on.
Yeah, totally. I have another question for you, though. This is the kitchen. I really want to try to get some short term goals out of you. And if that's alpha, if that's an exclusive, that's great. If you don't have something for us, you got to bring us something next time. But
No, I'll give you something for sure. So it's interesting. There's a bunch of stuff that's not alpha that like we're just so slammed, and we're hiring, by the way, for sorry, I'm gonna like shamelessly plug our job board.
good. Yeah, please.
Hiring for a marketer, because I tweeted earlier this week, like, is it acceptable to do 5 product launches in a week? And the answer is, I don't know. Like, but we've got all of these features that are like in plain sight, like already merged, already ready to use, like already, and we just haven't even announced any of them. And I'll just roll through those. But then there is one piece of alpha that I think is going to be just like insanely cool to take Blinks to the next level. So things that are literally live today that you can do, that's just stupid that we just like haven't even announced, are more advanced input types. So like with Blinks, there's like buttons and input fields today, also today, and we just like haven't announced it, is like select menus, checkboxes, radio buttons, more advanced inputs like phone numbers, email, like strict number validation, like tons of cool stuff. You can actually like send a regex down to like validate if the thing in the input field is right, like all part of pure JSON. Um, we're also doing, like, we just went multi-chain with one of the most enthusiastic teams that we've worked with shortly after launch, OKX, one of the leading crypto companies in the world, and one of the leading providers of Chrome extension wallets, integrated our Blinks technology for Solana support like just a few days after we launched Blinks. But then we collaborated with them. They were really excited to bring this to their broader community. So now, fully merged and in our SDK and live in OKX today, you can actually take action and experience Blinks from the EVM ecosystem, which is really cool. We were on a Twitter space yesterday. Another one is action chaining, which is in QA now, and I think might actually be merged. And action chaining is truly, how do I make a multi-step journey? So right now you have this like single link preview. What if when you take one action that's like fill in your shipping information, and then the second action is pay, like classic e-commerce, plus a ton of other things like personalization, like signed messages coming so you can actually authenticate and take action off chain, but also experience a kind of connect wallet. For privacy purposes, every Blink is generic when you first look at it. What if you could like permission, like choose to like connect your wallet to a Blink or a Blink provider, so that now whenever you see Blinks, both the second step of that Blink and any future Blinks are all personalized to you. And I think there's just like a huge amount of things that we can unlock with that. And then the last one I want to share that we haven't talked about publicly, I think is going to just be explosive. And that's dynamic Blinks. And what I mean by that is, what if the information in the Blink is changing right in front of you? And like, it's kind of insane that they don't already do this. It's more that we just like to ship quickly and iterate. But like, so much of crypto is social and real time. People say like the fundamental visual of crypto is the chart. And Blinks today, when you render them, you might have some data that's live and dynamic and up to date, like when you first render it, but they don't change. They just stay there, and you'd have to refresh your screen to like see it change. Right. What if you can actually see floor prices like ticking right within the button of like buy the floor, or you can see the people piling on, like the volume of trades going through a tweet, like right, like a blink in a tweet right in the spot. I just think it's going to be like great, you can do this stuff on Twitter. Why would you want to? I think dynamic data is going to be a huge part of that. So that's like the last piece of, we haven't talked about that publicly with anybody yet. And I think it's just going to like make these things just 10x more fun to use.
That's actually super exciting. You guys heard it here first on The Kitchen. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Absolutely.
A lot of things in the pipeline. Get that marketer. Because I would tell you not to launch all 5 in the same week.
That's stupid. And congratulations, we didn't launch any of them. With OKX's help, we launched the multi-chain one. But yeah, we're growing as a team. If you're interested in working with us, we're growing across a number of fronts. There's my job plug.
Perfect. Well, Chris, we are nearing the time for the last segment, and it is time to place you in the hot seat. So we'll ask a set of 3 questions. They're not too spicy, and you just answer with the first thing that comes to your mind. Are you ready?
I'm terrible at this, but yeah, here we go.
Okay, so we've talked a bit about.
You have to edit out long periods of. Sorry, go ahead.
No, first thing that pops into your mind. Please don't try to over-explain. Okay, we've talked about mass adoption, right? Are meme coins the vehicle to that?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Step in the journey. I feel very strong. I love it. I think it's insane and ridiculous and sublime. It's real.
Chris loves meme coins. Okay, there we go. Are crypto influencers over or underrated?
It depends on the influencer. I think the word KOL is definitely on the decline. I really think authenticity is the name of the game. And I know multiple people who maybe aren't as famous, but they've got really decent followings and they are great. And I love them. And I go to them for advice and yeah. So was the question over underrated?
Yeah.
The real ones underrated, the not real ones overrated.
Okay, you're staying safe. I see you, Chris.
Very standard generic answer.
Yeah. He's like, I'm not going to get cancelled for this.
Yeah.
The last one, and this is not too spicy, but a really interesting one. If you had to replace yourself as the founder of Dialect with someone in the Solana ecosystem, who would it be?
Oh, I want to give a really good answer. You're going to cut out like 8 minutes of
thinking.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Oh, this one's really. Oh man, I know there's an answer in here that I would love to give. I'm trying to. and like I'm going to insult a bunch of people by not mentioning them, but I like. Okay, as operators, I like obviously like Vib and Mert are like two of my favorite people. Vib just finally got nerd sniped on Blinks this week. I've been pitching him for like 3 months, and he built some incredible stuff. Like I have tremendous respect for them. Ian and Ashik from TipLink are just incredible operators that I have like they're like right over there. If I say it a little louder, they'll hear me. I work out of the Salon office in New York. They're really incredible. As far as sort of like brilliant vision, Zero X Designer is an influencer. Great example of one of like to your previous question, where if you don't follow him, you should. And he's talking a lot about Blinks these days. But even before talking about Blinks, the things he just posted, the creative ideas, were all effectively Blink-ish. And so he just has a mind for this that like I don't even know if he'd accept the offer, but like just I think he's fantastic, like incredible creative mind. So anyway, boring answer in that like I'm not saying something spicy that I'm going to get canceled for, but those are some of my favorite people.
Okay. So essentially what you're saying, if we had to spice this up, not one person can replace you.
Well, I mean, I think there are things that Vib or Mert or Zero X Designer would do 10x better than I'm doing, such as like actually like marketing and telling our story. So
Yeah.
I like, yeah, anyway, but I don't know. Yeah, it's a great question.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. You are out of the hot seat. You've made it, and you answered them really well.
Yeah, you toughed that last one out. I respect you for that. That was
That's a good one.
yeah.
That's and there's an even better answer somewhere in there. But I'd have to think on it.
Mm.
No, that's okay. You gave a perfectly acceptable hot seat answer given the time constraint of the rapid fire. So I think that was good. And I think that about wraps us up. So that's what's been cooking on Solana in the kitchen with Chris from Dialect Labs. This has been Akash and Celine. Join us next time for more spicy takes and juicy steaks. Follow us on SNS at Twitter. Join our Discord. And then please post this on YouTube. Like the video so I don't get fried.